Okay, welcome back everybody. This is a pretty exciting lesson because for the first time, we get to see all the pieces in the puzzle coming together. If you have completed all the homework so far, you should now have identified the income you will base your budget on. You should have identified all your expenses, i.e. anything you know you will spend money on over the next 12 months. You should now have both your income and expenses as a monthly figure. And finally, you should have entered both your income and expenses into the Grandma's Jars budget application and have completed the setup phase. Now, if you haven't completed the setup phase, can I encourage you to complete steps 4 and 5 as soon as possible? And as soon as you've done that, skip steps 6 and 7 and go straight to the complete setup button at the bottom of step 7. The setup wizard is really only meant to guide you through the process of setting up your budget, so I don't want you to get bogged down here. Everything you can do on the setup wizard can be done on the main budget. So please, if you've made a good attempt at steps 4 and 5, it's time to move to the main budget. The main budget is where all the good stuff happens. Okay, so after all your hard work, it's now time to face your moment of truth. This is the point where you'll know for certain, am I spending more than I earn, or am I spending less than I earn, but know I could be doing better? The equation, of course, is very simple. Our monthly income minus our monthly expenditure equals our surplus or deficit. It does not matter who you are or how much you earn, the golden rule applies to everyone. You must not spend more than you earn. You might be able to do it for a while, but it always catches up with you. The reality is, most people I work with have a deficit the first time they go through this process. If this is you, please don't be disheartened. This is just the starting point, and the important thing is that you now know that you have a deficit, you know how much it is, and you are in a position to do something about it. So let's now have a look at what this looked like for Dean and Emma on the Grandma's Jars budget application. Let's start by having a refresher of Dean and Emma's income and expenses. Now, once you've completed the setup phase, every time you log in from then on, the budget will automatically open up into the dashboard. From the dashboard, you can click on My Financials and then Income to go to the income page. On this income page, you can add new sources of income, edit existing sources of income, or delete old sources of income. In this first table, you can see Dean has a fortnightly income of $1,625.60 and Emma has a fortnightly income of $2,033.37. If we scroll down to the third table, we can see these figures converted into a monthly figure. Dean's minimum income is $3,251.20, so this is what he'll receive based on just 2 pays per month. And his average monthly income, which factors in those 3 pay months, is $3,521.81. And Emma's minimum monthly income is $4,066.74, and her average monthly income is $4,417.74. If you remember from our previous videos, I strongly recommend that where possible, you try to budget to your minimum monthly income. Not only will this make budgeting easier, but it will also mean that the third pay in your 3 pay months, if you get paid fortnightly, or the 5th pay in your 5 pay months, if you get paid weekly, becomes pure savings. Now that we know what Dean and Emma's income is, let's have a quick look at their expenses. We can do this by clicking on My Jars and then Jars in the main menu. On the left here, you can see all of Dean and Emma's jars. Most people have between 15 and 20 jars, depending on their life circumstances. Dean and Emma have 19 jars. Right now, the everyday jar is highlighted, and on the right, I can see all the expenses they have assigned to the everyday jar and how much they have allocated to each expense. And at the top here, we can see the total monthly allocation to the jar. So simply put, Dean and Emma will be taking $1,357.97 of their monthly income and allocating it to their everyday jar. So as you go through this, think of my grandma taking physical money from her pay and putting it into her physical glass jar. With every jar she tops up, she has less and less money left. The goal, of course, is to make sure that there is more income than there is jars to top up. And as we click through each jar, we will be able to see exactly how much Dean and Emma have allocated to each expense, and more importantly, the total that has been allocated to each jar. I know I have said this before, but it needs repeating. These jar allocations are just that, allocations. This is what they are putting in each jar each month, but it is not necessarily what they will spend each month. Money that isn't spent in one month accumulates for future months. This is especially important for jars like the utilities or car jars, where money should accumulate throughout the year to pay annual bills. Okay, now that we've had a look at income and expenses individually, it's time to put it all together. To do this, we need to go to the position summary page, which can be found under Budget Tools. The position summary page brings together your income and your expenses and provides an objective summary of exactly where you stand. On the left here, you can see Dean and Emma's minimum and average monthly incomes, and on the right, you can see the total monthly allocation to each of Dean and Emma's jars. This is a summary of how much Dean and Emma need or want to allocate to each of their jars on a monthly basis to ensure that all their expenses are covered throughout the year. These numbers at the top provide us with the all-important snapshot of where Dean and Emma stand. On the left, we have Dean and Emma's income. Their minimum monthly income is $7,317.94, and their average monthly income is $7,949.55. And in the center here, we have the total of their monthly jar allocations. This is a total of all their jar allocations added together. So the everyday jar of $1,357.92, utilities jar $449.64, communications $263, and so on. And to the right here is their surplus or deficit. This shows that based on their minimum monthly income of $7,717.94, they should have a surplus of $742.74. This is money available to them after they have allocated money to all their future expenses. And based on their average monthly income of $7,949.55, they should have a monthly surplus of $1,374.35. This is a wonderful position to be in, but this wasn't exactly how it was when I first met with Dean and Emma. After entering their expenses for the first time, Dean and Emma had an average monthly shortfall of $360 and a minimum monthly shortfall of all but $1,000. Most of the overspend was lifestyle, random debt repayments, and simply put, lack of awareness. They were leaking money everywhere. As I said before, this sort of deficit is a reality for most people I work with when we first go through this process. It is scary, but at least you know, and at least you are now in a position to do something about it. The next step in this journey is to go back through your jars and expenses page and look at where you can realistically pull back your spending. Your ideal goal is to have a minimum monthly surplus. In other words, you want this number here to be green. But if a minimum monthly surplus is too much of a stretch, then your next objective must be ensure that your average monthly surplus is green. Remember, the ultimate goal of this process is to consistently spend less than you earn. This means that your average monthly income must be greater than what you are allocating to your expenses on an average monthly basis. In summary, this is your moment of truth. If you have done your homework, you can now compare apples with apples, your monthly income with your monthly expenses. You should have identified if you have a monthly surplus or a monthly deficit and know exactly how much that surplus or deficit is to the dollar. Your homework. If you haven't done so already, go back and complete steps 4 and 5 of the Grandma's Jar setup phase, skip steps 6 and 7, and move to the main budget. Remember, the number one goal here is to establish a consistent monthly surplus so that we can then break the paycheck cycle, pay off debt, and start consistently saving money towards lifestyle goals that are truly important to you.